if you don't know me, my name is Hannah. I am a travel agent at the Travel Group and Travel Concepts. And I've been working with Women with Wings and the Travel Group now for about 9 years. And I've had the pleasure of escorting a few Women with Wings tours and organizing them from the back end, which is what I'm doing for this tour. And our lovely Jennifer Hewlett will be your tour escort this time up to Yukon in 2024. So tonight, we're going to go through the day-to-day itinerary, talk about what all the Yukon has to offer. And then I'll be talking after that about some flight information, insurance, and the payments. So I'll just pass it off to Jennifer if you'd like to introduce yourself, and I will get the presentation going.
Thank you, Hannah. Welcome, ladies. My name is Jennifer Hewlett, and I am thrilled that you're interested in the Yukon, especially after such a hot summer. I was just swimming in the Salish Sea, and it is very warm today in the sea, but I'm looking forward to a cold winter adventure. This is the second time I've gone on this Yukon trip, so I can speak to it quite clearly. My involvement with Women with Wings, I've worked with Cindy for over probably the past 10 years or more. Cindy has sent me overseas to Ireland and Austria and Italy, and my most recent trip was to the Yukon just before COVID. So as you can see from this photograph here, everyone is full of smiles and we're dressed all nice and cozy. So for those of you that will be joining us, do know that you will be supplied with your winter gear that will be in your room when we arrive on site. So you do not have to go to MEC or have to go and spend any extra money, because you will be geared up for winter time weather, which when we were there was pushing -35. And so we are going to, but you're warm, these big jackets, and you have big overalls, and you can see the moon boots many of us are wearing, and they do provide gloves and big hats. So you'll be nice and warm and cozy. This particular photograph was taken in Carcross. Carcross is a very interesting area. It's at this particular time in the winter, it's a frozen lake, and this is where we'll be snowshoeing. And the vistas are beautiful. It's so wide open. We will have a guided snowshoe tour. The snowshoes will be provided, and there'll be definitely a variety of fitness levels in this group, but rest assured that everybody will be welcome to try the event. Some will go longer than others. This here is the photograph from the back angle of the Borealis Ranch, and you can see the northern lights right behind it. This ranch is just so unique in its presentation. A young couple bought it and renovated it, and it doubles as a home. And you can see they've done a beautiful job with the renovation. Everybody has a beautiful view back up to the Seven Sisters, the mountains in the background. And it's just very comfortable. The bedrooms are just the 2 beds in the bathrooms, so they're comfortable. It's not something that you'd see at the Marriott, but it's certainly comfortable and clean and fresh, and you will definitely sleep well. The food is something that was over the top when we were there. It's all homemade. The people in the community come with their family recipes, and honestly, it was just incredible. The meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The table is community based, so we all come down and have a lovely breakfast and a dinner together. The appetizers are served in this lovely little space with local art. And again, I don't know how we even had dinner after eating all these gorgeous appies. And off to the side, there's a roaring fire that is constantly stoked and kept going to roast us and keep us cozy. The conversations are all so interesting and so blended. I love the multi-generational groups of conversations, and each trip is so unique because all of you bring your own stories, and we all collectively find commonality with each other. And of course, we all enjoy the outdoors, so that brings us all together. If you're brave enough, there's a hot tub on site. You can get in your bathing suit and tiptoe across that snowy little field. It's not that far, but it is quite refreshing and it's quite unique. And sitting there in the hot tub is just something that's quite magical when the snow's flying. And you can see in the backdrop there, there's lots of low-lying trees where there's like a little snowshoe path if you would like to go off on your own. There's or a hiking trail in the snow. There's some lovely trails that surround the property. So that's the backdrop. Those mountains in the morning in that sunrise setting, they're pink and blue. It's just exquisite from your room. And so do bring your bathing suit. Do bring some sandals, if you will, or your boots. You can walk across the snow in the boots. So again, there is a hot tub on site. You can see we were pushing minus, well, yeah, we were going to minus 30. So it seems crazy. And I've never experienced anything cold like that, but we were dressed for it. And thankfully we had beautiful weather. So fingers crossed, February will give us good weather. The Aurora Borealis, if we're lucky enough, and we did see it twice when we were on our last trip. So there's some beautiful viewing platforms at the ranch. And this is really unique in that we don't have to get on a bus. We don't have to get up in the middle of the night. Well, we do, but we don't have to drive in the middle of the night to see it. The platforms are on site and they have heating areas and beautiful stage settings. If you bring your camera, which many people have high-end cameras that they want to capture the lights, they have areas where you can place your tripods and take photographs. Lots of blankets there. And the very unique thing about this particular ranch, which I thought was fascinating, when we all arrive and we go into our own rooms, we're all given a walkie-talkie and we all can put it on. It's optional at night. So what they do is they have a volunteer that stays with them and they're called the Aurora Borealis Detective. So they stay up all night. We can sleep, but they stay up all night. And if and when they see the lights, they will then use the walkie-talkies and let all of us know who have our walkie-talkies on that the lights are visible. So this happened a couple of times and it was hysterical because most of us were sleeping. It was maybe 1 or 2 in the morning and we jumped up like firemen and we had our pajamas on and we all jumped into our overalls and we had our hats on and we were all running around like we were just kids at a Girl Guide camp, and we were trying to find our cameras and everybody was running down the stairs and we had our hats going and our gloves going. It was hysterical, but we're outside within 10 minutes and we wouldn't have seen them if it had not been for this Aurora Borealis Detective, which is a volunteer on site. So we don't have to stay up all night and keep looking out the window and think, oh, I wonder if it's tonight. Oh my gosh. So fingers crossed, we'll have beautiful weather and the lights, for those of you who haven't seen them, they are really quite spectacular, definitely. And the stars. And again, the snowshoeing and the vistas are just so beautiful. As we are going to go to Carcross, there's another area that has platforms such as this just off sites of Carcross. And there's just so many Kodak moments and your camera will be on fire on days like this. The dog sledding, of course, is a real treat for so many of us. We will be going to a really interesting dog sledding area. We won't be dog sledding for the most part. This is kind of more the setting when we dog sled in the forest. We're going to a woman's ranch, Marcel, and she's a 4-time Iditarod finisher. She's in her late 60s now, so it's quite impressive that she's still running her dogs. There's 57 dogs on site. Well, there was when we were there, so she has a lot of dogs. And it's just a fascinating journey to meet the dogs and see how she feeds them and see how she's named them and where all the leashes are, how they run. And her little cottage, which is something out of a movie set. It literally looks like it was built 100 years ago. It probably was. She lives very simply. She's sponsored by some companies. I think she told me at the time it cost her over $6,000 a month just to feed her dogs. And of course, they're on heavy protein. And here she is here, Marcel. She's from Switzerland originally. She's just a beautiful soul. You can see her face, gentle soul, lives by herself. She has volunteers that help her with the dogs. And that was just after our dog sled. She invited us into her home, which was very unique. And some of the dogs that she has now retired who were too old to run, they now come and sleep inside with her. And she has several of them just bedding down with her. So a big old table. There's notes on her fridge from years and years ago and notes here and there. I mean, it's I don't know how she does it, but she must have such a routine that she's organized. She has these big freezers outside that she puts all of her meats in for the winter and over the summer. And she has to lock them over and over again because the grizzlies will come and try to get at them. So, it's just like Cougar Annie. I mean, it's something out of a movie. So I'm delighted that you're going to be able to meet her. I'm delighted that she's still doing it. Here she is. When we arrive on the ranch, she is a great teacher. This is the particular bucket that you will be in, and rest assured, everybody will be dog sledding. This is not something that's a guided event. So you will be straddling this dog sled. Your partner will be sitting in the bucket. There'll be 6 to 7 dogs on your team, and she will go through how that works. And yeah, it's quite exhilarating. I must say, I've water skied before and I've snow skied. And I'm really glad I have a good sense of balance because when those dogs went, and when you say mush, they know that word. And I thought it was just a joke. No, it's not a joke. You don't say that word until you're really ready to go. And off we were and all bundled up. The woman that was with me, a lovely gal, she was quite nervous. And so she sat in the bucket and we went in and out of the trees. And it was so exhilarating, but she was not comfortable riding back or driving. So I was happy to have, take the lead again. So you'll have to determine with your crew who you are teamed up with and how comfortable you are. Here's my lovely partner. And we had a day that was like these light snowflakes were falling. We were in the trees. It was so surreal. It was just incredible. And the dogs were barking. It's quite an experience. So the dogs are very high strung. So they don't like to stand still too long. So you've got to be on your A game when you're standing or straddling, and they're good to make sure that you're comfortable. And nobody's ever dog sled before, so it's not like you have to come practicing because you can't practice. You just have to know that you'll be able to do it. And there's nothing really that you can train. You can't go to the gym and practice, but you can just know that it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to be with the dogs. And keep in mind, when we go to the dog sledding area, it's not really just the dog sledding that's so important. It's the whole story. It's listening to Marcel. It's going into her home. It's watching her interact with the dogs and the volunteers and just the ambiance that surrounds it. And it's quite a unique journey. It'll stay with you for a long, long time. Yeah, some dog sledding areas are, some people go for days and hours. It's exhausting. So that's not kind of the experience. We are dog sledding, but it's not a 6-hour dog sled. This, moving on, another day, we are going to go to a lovely area, which is the Yukon Wildlife Reserve. And it's a very large plot of land that has animals that are native to the Yukon that have come here for various reasons. They've rescued them in various capacities. We were lucky enough when we arrived at this particular wildlife center to see many of these animals. It was a sunny day, and we had with us comes an interpreter, so they will speak to the animals that are in each particular area, which are quite large and expansive. So you do have to get out of the van and walk around. If you choose to, you can walk from site to site. We were in the van and then got out and were able to capture some of these lovely moments. Following our Yukon Wildlife Reserve adventure, we end up at the Eclipse Spa. And this is the Nordic spa that's just opened last year. So you're very fortunate to be some of the first people through. The spa that was here before was very historic and very run down. So when I went the last time, it was I think we're one of the last people through. So I'm excited to see this new spa. It has several pools. When it is cold out, the water is obviously warm and it comes from way, way deep, deep down in kind of a mountainous area. So it's all very natural. And if it's very cold, people, there's a wall of fame and there's all these pictures on the wall. And literally this happens. It didn't happen to us because it was too warm, but perhaps it'll happen this time. But people go to the spa and then get their hair wet, as you can imagine, and then get out of the water and flip their hair up, and it literally freezes in an instant. And so there is so many hysterical pictures all across the wall that people, you know, they try to be on that wall of fame. So perhaps if you have the right conditions, you too will have a photograph just like this. We were disappointed, but it was too warm when we were there last time. So that's fun. As we finish our trip, we're going to head back to the to Whitehorse because we really land in Whitehorse and we go right to the ranch. So this is our opportunity to see Whitehorse. It's quite interesting. We're staying at the Edgewater, which is a very modest hotel. It's great. I mean, it's local and it's got a bed, and we're just there for a night, and it's fantastic. So we're there. And the great thing is that just coincidentally, we're there for the week at the Yukon Heritage Days. It coincides with ours. So if you all want to research the Yukon Heritage Days, this is going to be fantastic. There's going to be lots of extra things on site that particular week: ice carving, snow making, music, historians. So some of you may want to do some research to see what's there. So the great thing is, I believe our flight is on at 6:45 the following night. So we have the evening on Friday evening there, and then most of Saturday. So if you want to do some research, because that's your time, once we're there in Whitehorse, you can personalize your trip from there on in. Some might want to do the museum, some might want to do an art show. There could be some live music. But Friday night, I've intentionally asked Miss Hannah to ask her to put us into a restaurant, kind of casual setting where there's live music and there's great energy, rather than a formal dining room, because Yukon, we're all dressed for the outdoors. We all want to experience that philosophy. So I think that you don't need a lot of fine dining clothes, if you will, going to the Yukon. We're all going to be dressed in our winter wear. So yes, you can see there's lots to do. And I hope I've answered some of your questions. There's a lot of little secret surprises that we have along the way. And it's just a lovely trip. It's a quick trip up to the up north. And if you have a chance to join us, you won't be disappointed. It's a very unique experience. So welcome to those of you who have already decided to come. I know a few of you who have, and I'm delighted that that's the case. And February is a beautiful time to travel. So I hope you can find some time in your schedule to make it work.
Thanks, Jennifer. You just sell it so well. I mean, how can you not go? I'm going to be up in Yukon in August, actually, in a couple of weeks, but it's going to be completely different, obviously, than when you go. Won't have to wear winter clothing. But yeah, super fun. I'm going to go check out that Nordic spa as well. That sounds really great.
Great.
Yeah. So I'll just talk a little bit about more of the nitty gritty, I guess. Jennifer just mentioned there about the flights. So there's two airline options going up to Whitehorse, and that's either with Air Canada or Air North. Now we get a little bit of a discount with Air North, so you might want to travel with them. Or if you have Aeroplan points, you maybe prefer to travel with Air Canada. But the flight from Vancouver to Whitehorse, Air North arrives at noon, and Air Canada doesn't arrive until 5 p.m. So, and it takes about an hour to get from the airport to the Boreal Ranch. So we're recommending to go with Air North, because then you can get to the ranch, have some time to unwind, and maybe go for a walk around the property or something. Whereas if you fly with Air Canada, you'd probably just be arriving and then having dinner right away. So you don't have that time to really relax a little bit. And then on the return, the Air Canada flight's at 6 p.m. and the Air North flight is at 8:45 in the morning. So depending on what you want to do, like Jennifer said, please look into that festival that's happening in Whitehorse. There's lots going on there. So that 3 day, if you want to leave at the 6 p.m. flight, you don't have to be at the airport until like 4:30, 4:45. So you have almost a full day there to explore Whitehorse. There's lots to do there as well. There's like the ice carving and lots of fun and interesting things that happen with this festival. There's even axe throwing if you feel like it. Very Yukon.
Yeah, very.
So you could chop and change as well. You could fly in with Air Canada and fly in with Air North and out with Air Canada. That's totally fine. You just buy 2 one-way tickets. In total, it's about $600, depending on what class of service you want to go with. And if you want to prepay for your seat selection and your luggage. Going for 4 days, you may not want to check luggage, but you will have to have some warm weather clothing, and that tends to take up a lot of space. Like Jennifer said, you are getting the warm weather clothing is included, and you'll get that picked up at the ranch and then drop that off back at the Edgewater Hotel before your flight home. So you pretty much have it for the entire time, except for that one bit where you're in between the airport and the accommodation. So you probably want to bring a big jacket with you to have on the plane anyway. So that's the flight information. And then for the insurance, I wanted to talk about the 2 payments. The deposit and the final payment are both non-refundable. The deposit is $500, and then the final payment is due in December. The total amount we're asking for is $2,259 per person, and that's based on twin share. So because these are non-refundable and we are paying for it in advance, I highly recommend getting trip cancellation insurance. You never know what our world is going to throw at us now. And also things, with family having cancellations that come up that are unforeseen, right? So being able to protect your investment is a really good option. Some of you might have your own insurance, private insurance, or on your credit card. I highly recommend reading the fine print on your credit card because not all policies are the same. So if you'd like some more information about that or a quote, I'm happy to help. Also, we also provide out of province medical insurance. Now, a lot of you might have not even heard of this or even think that you need to have out of province medical when you're leaving BC, but there are some things that don't correlate with our MSP in BC to other provinces. So I would recommend that you get out of province medical, and it's pretty cheap for only 4 days. I think it's probably around $20 for most of you. So would recommend that, and I can provide a quote for that as well. Also, so we are taking a minimum and a maximum of 10 people. It's a really small tour because of the Boreal Ranch being a small accommodation. We're not staying in a big hotel, and there are no single supplements on this trip. So you will be having to share with someone. Now we have had around 8 or 9 people already keen interest in this tour. So if you are interested and you are not already on that list, I would highly recommend you emailing me or calling me right away, because we don't have a lot of space. Hopefully we'll be able to offer this tour again in maybe 2025, but you never know. Thank you all so much for joining us. And for those of you who couldn't join us, you're going to be watching this video later. Thank you. And we will talk to you soon. I hope to see you guys in the future. And I hope Jennifer gets to see you in Yukon.
See you in the Yukon.